Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show?
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show. I am your host, Joey Harris, and we are broadcasting from makeshift studios in the shadow of South Central Virginia. Follow the show on Twitter at Cup of Joe Pod. Email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. You can support the show at paypal.me/cupofjoepod. Folks, back again, still dealing with sickness. Turns out I had strep throat, so still trying to get over that. And as I am recording this, it is just pouring down rain, and we're expected to get rain all day long. The whole area, most of the schools are not going today because of the rain and wind advisories that we have. So that's a lovely way to start out your day, don't you think? Anyway, today we look at SuperBrawl III from WCW. I remember this show watching the video with my best friend at his grandmother's house because of bad weather. We were kind of stuck there, and she had power, and I remember back where we lived, we didn't have power. So I remember that and watching this videotape there. I guess we rented it to give us something to do while we were waiting out the storms. SuperBrawl III was shown on pay-per-view on February the 21st, 1993 from the Asheville Civic Center in Nashville, North Carolina. There were 6,500 in attendance. We start out with our intro. Eric Bischoff welcomes us to SuperBrawl III. He and Missy Hyatt run down some of what we're going to see. Missy says she's going to get a big interview tonight. They are then joined by Johnny B. Bad. He also runs down some of what we're going to see, and then they throw it to Tony Schiavone and Jesse Ventura. They talk about the main event and then some of the other title matches. Gary Michael Capetta introduces Max Payne, who plays the national anthem on his guitar. Steve Austin and Brian Pillman versus Eric Watts and Marcus Bagwell. Austin and Bagwell start. They lock up and Bagwell pushes off. Another lock up, and they drive to the corner. Clean break. Bagwell with an arm drag into an armbar. Test of strength, and Bagwell gets Austin down with a wrist lock. Austin with an elbow and a right hand. Back and forth. Bagwell with a right hand that knocks Austin out of the ring. Watts tagged in and a double backdrop to Austin. Pillman tagged in, and the heels have Watts in their corner, and he is trying to fight his way out. He does, and he and Pillman exchange holds in the center of the ring. Watts with an armbar. Bagwell tagged in. Austin also tagged in. Bagwell ducks some clotheslines and comes back with a crossbody. He then takes Austin down with a side headlock takeover. Up into a side headlock and Watts tagged back in. He picks up the side headlock and then gets Austin into the abdominal stretch. Bagwell tagged in. He picks the abdominal stretch up. Austin gets out and tags Pillman in. Back and forth. Bagwell with a press slam and a clothesline for a 2 count. Watts tagged in. Austin also tagged in. Watts gets Austin down for a 2 count and then turns Austin over into a Boston Crab. Pillman breaks the hold. Pillman tagged in. Watts gets the STF on, but Pillman gets to the ropes. Pillman says he's injured his knee to sucker Watts in. Watts goes outside and Pillman goes to hit him with a double axe handle, but Watts moves and Pillman hits the barricade instead. Back in, Pillman goes to Watts and the heels hit a back elbow to drive Watts to the outside as Austin was tagged in. Austin kicks Watts back down from the apron. And Austin chant goes out. Austin with a sunset flip from the apron, but can't get Watts down. All 4 men in now. Watts in the heels corner. They double team Watts. Watts rolls Pillman up for a 2 count. Austin tagged in. He chops Watts down. Bagwell goaded in. Watts in the heel corner. Pillman tagged in. Rocket launcher to Watts, but he gets his knees up. Austin tagged in and cuts Watts off from tagging with a belly-to-back suplex. They accidentally hit heads, and then Austin goes for a leapfrog body guillotine, but Watts moves. Both Pillman and Bagwell tagged in. Bagwell cleaning house. Austin stops a pin attempt. Bagwell with a bridging suplex, but Austin comes off the top rope with a forearm to Bagwell, and Pillman gets the pin. Eric and Johnny B. Bad talk about Ric Flair being there. Missy tries to interview Flair as he arrives, but security keeps her away. A "We Want Flair" chant goes out. Chris Benoit versus Too Cold Scorpio. Scorpio is extremely popular with the crowd. They lock up. To the ropes and break clean. Another tie-up and clean break. Benoit with a back elbow and a snap suplex. He follows it up with a chop. Scorpio comes back with a body press and a spinning heel kick that drives Benoit to the outside. He gets back in. Benoit with a wrist lock. They do a series of reversals to each other, and Benoit with an armbar. Scorpio with a reversal and gets Benoit into an armbar of his own. Scorpio with a hammerlock using his feet on Benoit. Benoit gets up and more reversals. Back and forth. Benoit goes back to the outside. Test of strength. Both men bridge to avoid going down. Scorpio with a drop kick and an arm drag. Scorpio goes back to the armbar. Back and forth. Scorpio keeps going back to the armbar. He rolls Benoit over to get a 2 count. Benoit runs Scorpio into a turnbuckle. He hits a clothesline to Scorpio. He follows it up with a backbreaker. Scorpio pulls the hair to get out. Benoit with a headlock. He then slams Scorpio down on the turnbuckle. Scorpio kick to the outside. Scorpio up on the apron. Benoit goes to run Scorpio into the turnbuckle, but Scorpio blocks it and runs Benoit in instead. Scorpio misses a top rope drop kick, and Benoit gets a 2 count. Benoit with a chin lock. Scorpio tries to come back, but Benoit hits a version of the sidewalk slam into a Boston Crab that's almost a version of the Lion Tamer. Benoit lets go. Benoit with a snapmare and a chin lock. Benoit then chops Scorpio. He pulls Scorpio up on the top and hits a belly-to-back superplex, but Benoit hurts himself. He covers, but only gets a 2 count. A Russian leg sweep gets another 2 count. Benoit goes for the slam, but Scorpio shifts in midair to get a 2 count. Back and forth. Benoit with a powerbomb for a 2 count. Scorpio sent up by Benoit perhaps for a powerbomb, but he transitions to a sunset flip for a cover. They are in the ropes though. Benoit with a corner whip, but Scorpio puts his knees up. Scorpio with an enziguri. 2 minutes remaining. Back and forth. Scorpio with a corner whip and a 360 spinning splash. He hits a float over leg drop from the top rope for a 2 count. Back and forth. Now 45 seconds left. Benoit with a scoop slam for a 2 count. 13 seconds left. After Benoit goes for a German suplex, Scorpio hooks the legs and gets the pin with 1 second left. Benoit argues that time has expired. Eric Bischoff talks about the WCW hotline and brings in Max Payne. Payne talks about getting the opportunity to face Dustin Rhodes and plays taps for Rhodes on his guitar. The British Bulldog versus Bill Irwin. Davey Boy Smith making his WCW debut here. The bell rings and they lock up. Bulldog pushes off. Bulldog has the crowd on his side. Another lock up and push off. Irwin comes back with forearms. Back and forth. Bulldog with a push off. They do a crisscross and Bulldog clotheslines Irwin to the outside. Back in. Bulldog with the press slam. Irwin falls back outside. Back in. Irwin with a side headlock. Bulldog pushes off. He hip locks Irwin. Irwin with a wrist lock. He follows it up with a corner whip and a clothesline. Another Irish whip and a back elbow by Irwin. He gets a 1 count. Irwin runs Bulldog into the top rope for a 2 count. Irwin with a chin lock. Back and forth. Bulldog with a delayed vertical suplex. Bulldog with a corner whip and a clothesline. He gets a 2 count. He tries it again, but Irwin gets his boot up. Irwin goes up to the second rope, but Bulldog catches him as he comes off and power slams Irwin to get the pin. They show the White Castle of Fear movie in parts throughout the show. Tony Schiavone interviews Davey Boy Smith. He's happy to be in WCW and came to be the world champion and calls out Vader. That was painful to get through. Johnny and Missy talk about the UK tour coming up. Eric Bischoff talks to Paul Orndorff about Cactus Jack, who comes in with a big shovel after Orndorff. Their match immediately starts. Paul Orndorff versus Cactus Jack. Falls count anywhere in the building. Referee Randy Anderson gets the shovel away from Cactus, allowing Orndorff to attack Cactus with kicks to get him down at ringside. He chokes Cactus with a TV cable and runs him into the barricade. Back and forth. Cactus runs Orndorff into a barricade. He picks up a ringside mat, slams Orndorff down on the concrete, and then drops an elbow down on Orndorff. Cactus Jack gets a 2 count. Cactus with a sunset flip to Orndorff on the outside for a 2 count. They go back in the ring and Orndorff hits an Irish whip and a clothesline. Orndorff brutalizes Cactus and throws him out of the ring. Orndorff runs Cactus down the aisle and over the guardrail by the entrance. They trade shots to the face. They battle in the aisle. Orndorff with a back elbow, and then he suplexes Cactus onto the barricade. He attacks Cactus and grabs him by the hair. He runs him back to the ring area. He throws Cactus in the ring and hits an elbow from the second rope. Orndorff ripping Cactus Jack's knee brace off. Orndorff then suplexes Cactus out to the apron. Cactus gets back in, and Orndorff chokes him with his own knee brace. Orndorff puts Cactus in a figure 4. Cactus trying to fight it. He gets out, but Orndorff clotheslines him out to the floor. Orndorff slams the knee on the concrete. He then slams Jack's head on the apron. Orndorff hits Cactus with the leg brace to drive Cactus back out to the floor. He throws Jack back in the ring and grabs a chair. He hits Jack's injured leg with the chair several times. Orndorff throws the chair down and signals for the pile driver, but Jack gets the shovel and hits Orndorff with it to get the pin. Eric, Johnny, and Missy talk about what's coming up. Missy says Ric Flair will make an appearance at SuperBrawl. The Heavenly Bodies, Tom Pritchard and Stan Lane with Jim Cornette and Bobby Eaton versus the Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. This is the end of the Smoky Mountain Wrestling WCW working agreement, now that Bill Watts is no longer the head of WCW. It was getting too good, too, with the stuff Cornette was saying on air. Tony runs down the accomplishments of the Rock and Roll Express. The referee sends Eaton back to the dressing room. Pritchard and Gibson start. They lock up and drive to the ropes. Gibson with a hip lock out of the corner. He then head scissors Pritchard's out of the opposite corner. Morton tagged in. He hits Pritchard with a Frankensteiner. Pritchard gets a side headlock on and tags Lane in. Lane bumping for both Rock and Roll, and Morton gets an armbar on. Lane gets back to his feet and tries to tag Pritchard in, but Morton won't allow him to. Pritchard comes in the ring, and Morton swings Lane into Pritchard and they both fall down. All Rock and Roll thus far. They are doing crowd-pleasing spots and making the heels look foolish. Heavenly Body is rolled to the outside to regroup with Cornette. Back in, Pritchard hits Morton in the corner with some hard right hands. Lane comes in to clothesline Morton. Morton hits an atomic drop on Pritchard and ducks, and Pritchard gets hit with the clothesline instead. Gibson tagged in. He gets an enziguri for a 2 count. Morton tagged back in. Heels get Morton in their corner, but he fights his way out, and now all 4 men in the ring. Morton in, and he and Lane do a crisscross. Morton goes after Cornette on the outside. Cornette runs into the ring to get away from Morton. Gibson runs the Heavenly Bodies' heads together, and Morton punches Cornette off the apron to the floor. Lane Irish whips Morton, and Cornette grabs his foot. The Bodies finally get some offense in. Lane guillotines Morton on the top rope as a Rock and Roll chant goes out. Pritchard in, and he slams Morton down and drops a knee. Lane tagged in and hits a swinging neck breaker. He gets a 2 count. Pritchard tagged back in. He gets Morton in a chin lock. Heavenly Bodies double team Morton after goading Gibson. Lane in and drops an elbow on Morton. Back and forth. Pritchard with a powerbomb. He gets a 2 count. Lane tagged in. Lane with a corner whip and a power slam for another 2 count. Morton with a double DDT on the Heavenly Bodies. Gibson tagged in and cleans house. Heavenly Bodies double team Gibson to get him down. Rock and Roll clothesline Lane and double drop kick Pritchard. All 4 men in. Gibson slingshots Cornette in when he gets up on the apron. Gibson goes after Cornette only to get bulldogged by Pritchard. He only gets a 2 count. Cornette distracts referee Nick Patrick. Gibson thrown over the top rope. Morton with an inverted atomic drop and cover, but Patrick still ties up with Cornette and Lane in the corner. Bobby Eaton comes from the back and drops a knee from the top rope, but Morton moves and Pritchard gets hit instead. Gibson covers Pritchard to get the pin. Pritchard starts arguing with Eaton, but Lane and Cornette break them up. Tony and Jesse talk about the U.S. title match coming up. United States Championship match. Dustin Rhodes versus Max Payne. The bell rings and they trade blows. Rhodes with early advantage. Payne out to the floor to regroup. Back in, Rhodes with a side headlock. Back and forth. Rhodes with an arm drag and Payne goes back out to the floor. Back in, Rhodes with an arm bar. Into a wrist lock. Payne comes back with a forearm. Rhodes goes back to the armbar. Payne drives Rhodes into a turnbuckle. Payne misses a corner charge, and Rhodes goes back to the armbar. Rhodes working on the arm. Rhodes with a corner whip. Payne hits a back elbow on the charge. He gets a 2 count. Payne with a corner whip, and Rhodes gets the foot up on the charge. Payne slings Rhodes out by the arm. Payne then gets the armbar on Rhodes. Rhodes gets to his feet and gets to the ropes. Payne goes for the painkiller, but Rhodes gets the leg scissors on. Payne with a clothesline. He drives a knee into the shoulder, but breaks before the 5 count. Back and forth. It goes out to the floor. Back in. Payne with an Irish whip and a backdrop. Rhodes trying to come back. Payne misses an elbow drop. Rhodes hits a mule kick. Rhodes with a series of right hands and a lariat. Rhodes hits a suplex for a 2 count. Rhodes with an abdominal stretch. Payne throws Rhodes into the referee to get disqualified. Payne takes Rhodes to the outside and delivers a shoulder breaker. He then runs Rhodes into the ring post. Rhodes runs Payne into the apron. It goes back in the ring, and officials break them up. Gary Michael Capetta introduces Ric Flair. Flair gets a great reaction when he comes out. This is Flair country after all. Tony interviews Flair. He says the Nature Boy is back to rock and roll. He He says they are wrestling for the title that he never lost. NWA World Heavyweight Championship match. The Great Muta versus Barry Windham. Windham out first. Flair joins commentary. Muta comes out with Hiro Matsuda. Referee Randy Anderson goes over the rules as a "We Want Flair" chant goes out. Flair picks Windham to win. The bell rings and they circle each other. They tie up and go to the ropes. They break. Another lock up and break. Lock up again. Test of strength. A Barry chant goes out. Windham with a suplex. Muta with a side headlock takeover. Windham pushes off. Muta with a shoulder block. Muta follows it up with a spinning heel kick. Another side headlock takeover. Windham up, but Muta takes him back over. Windham back up, and Muta takes him back down. Windham back to his feet and gets to the ropes. Windham coming back, but Muta hits a drop kick and goes back to the side headlock. Windham with a suplex, but Muta doesn't let go. Windham back to his feet. He gets to the ropes. Muta reverses a suplex and drops an elbow on Windham and gets back to the side headlock. Windham back to his feet and they trade blows. Windham finally breaks the hold. Muta with an Irish whip, but Windham holds on to the ropes. Windham with a DDT. He kicks Muta. Muta spills out to the floor and Windham comes out after him and hits a belly-to-back suplex on the outside. Windham then suplexes Muta back in the ring. Scoop slam and a knee to Muta. A second knee to Muta. He gets a 2 count. Windham with an Irish whip and a sleeper. Muta starts to fade. He doesn't go out. Muta with a foot on the ropes for leverage. Muta trying to hold on. Windham gets caught and forced to break. Windham gets a 2 count. A side suplex gets another 2 count for Windham. He throws Muta out and then slaps him. Back in, they trade shots. Windham with a scoop slam and an elbow for a 2 count. He puts a reverse chin lock on Muta. Muta comes back. He tries to get Windham over, but can't. Muta with a crossbody for a 2 count. Muta reverses a piledriver attempt with a backdrop. Back and forth. Windham with a leg drop for a 2 count. Muta with a spin kick. Windham with a thumb to the eye. Windham setting up for the superplex. Muta fighting it. He chops Windham off. Muta with a chop to Windham from the top rope. Muta with the corner whip and a handspring elbow to Windham. Muta with a backbreaker. Muta goes for the moonsault, but Windham moves. Muta reverses a suplex attempt into a belly-to-back suplex. Muta with a gut buster and goes for the moonsault again, but Windham gets his knees up. Windham with a clothesline and a DDT, and he pins Muta to become the new NWA champion. Flair grabs the NWA title and brings it into the ring and straps it on Windham. Flair then leaves. Johnny, Eric, and Missy preview the main event. White Castle of Fear strap match. Big Van Vader with Harley Race versus Sting. Vader is the WCW champion, but the title is not on the line. Vader out first. Sting gets a fantastic reaction when he comes out. Tony outlines the history between the two men. Referee Nick Patrick puts the strap on both men and the bell rings. They size each other up. Vader pulls Sting down with the strap a couple of times. They get face to face. Vader gets Sting down and drives an elbow into him. Vader hits Sting's back with the strap. Vader with a splash from the second rope. Sting up and the strap is between Vader's legs and Sting with a series of chops to knock Vader down. Sting with an enziguri to Vader when he gets up to knock him back to the mat. He follows up with a clothesline from the second turnbuckle. Then a splash to Vader from the top rope. Then a second splash to Vader. Sting grabs the strap and whips Vader's back. Race up on the apron and he gets whipped off. Vader rolls to the outside to regroup. Sting comes out and pulls Vader into a ring post. Vader's back is bloody. Sting touches one post on the outside and then scoop slams Vader. He starts dragging Vader around and gets 2 posts before Vader pulls Sting into a barricade to break the count. Back in, Sting hits a crucifix. Vader comes back with body shots. Sting reverses a powerbomb attempt with a backdrop. He hits a series of forearms to a prone Sting. He gets Sting up on his back and does a fallaway slam. He does a swagger bomb-like move onto Sting from the second rope. Vader whips Sting. He gets Sting on the second turnbuckle for another fallaway slam. Both men down. Vader gets 2 posts before Sting breaks the momentum. Vader goes for another swagger bomb, but Sting moves. Vader goes up top, but Sting pulls the strap to groin Vader and then pulls him off the top rope. Sting hitting Vader with a series of shots. Vader puts Sting on the top turnbuckle and superplexes Sting. Vader gets 3 posts before Sting breaks the momentum. Vader beating Sting down in the corner. Sting gets Vader up, but Vader's foot hits Patrick. Sting gets 3 posts, but trips over Patrick. Vader splashes down on Sting. He ties Sting up and gets 3 posts. Sting kicks Vader away, but towards the final post and Vader wins. Sting straps Vader after the match. Eric, Missy, and Johnny recap the night. Eric then interviews Barry Windham. Windham says he's on the prowl for championships. Tony and Jesse recap the night and sign off from Asheville. We get our end credits. Final thoughts. This was a good show. There was a lot of action and the final 2 matches were excellent. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TheJoeyHarris. If you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or your preferred podcast app. I would really appreciate it. Thank you for joining me this week. This is Joey saying so long from the heart of Virginia.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.